into positions of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a three-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she tries to act like she is God and she is supreme.
Hello, everyone. I just watched the intro video that we have on the show on YouTube now and realized that I need to trim my beard more. How you doing, Anders?
Good. Yeah. I hope everyone enjoys that new edition of the show, and as well as the millennial pause that ensues after each ending of the song.
There's no getting rid of it. It's wired into our brains, and that's how you know how we think, and that's how you advertise stuff to us, is I guess by also doing that, and it's pleasurable to us. I don't know. I'm thinking about this a lot all day. I'm thinking about influencers. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm influencer, dark, gothic, not anti-MAGA influencer Jake Flores, and that's Anders Lee.
Anders J. Lee here.
Anders influencer Lee here.
I was worried for a second you weren't going to give me an opportunity to do it, because I usually say that up front. And I have that wired into my brain that I need to say it every time or something bad's going to happen.
Me too. And sometimes I fuck it up. We've been doing this forever, and I fuck it up often. So keep on your toes, because I absolutely could forget to do the intro to the show. But it's there. Now you remember who we are. If you've never heard us before, I guess you know who we are now. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hello, Nazis of the world. I'm assuming that's who watches YouTube. My ultra biased media take is that podcasts are for leftists, and YouTube is a fascist format because people watch it in their big suburban homes and stuff. This doesn't really make sense once you really get into it. But we're on YouTube now to try to influence people that don't listen to podcasts, I guess. I've learned some things from the people we study on the show, and I've decided that we need to branch out medium-wise, because there's glorious untapped markets to hawk our false consciousness to for $5 a month via Patreon. Hey, if you like the show, sign up for our Patreon. Anyways, let's talk about the world. Let's talk about, I guess, politics, philosophy, the various things that we talk about. Politics, it's happening again. There was a brief dip after Trump won his election, and then the politicians of the world, the Democrats, I guess, were like, don't look at me. I think that's the vibe after an election with them, especially when they lose, is just don't look, like, I don't want to answer any questions, because it's the most obvious moment where you go, oh, these people are kind of bullshitting us, right? They only really do politics to win elections and don't actually care about stuff. So we just got through this moment where they're just like, I don't look at me. And now we're starting to get these like Cory Booker spectacles again, the filibuster thing he did, and it's pretty soon this is going to turn into emails that say, hey, it's your friend, I need money. But something that's happening right now, that's the first inkling of politics happening again, is Bernie Sanders and AOC have embarked on a tour. I guess they just finished it. It was a like fight the oligarchy kind of tour. It had like Hot Topic-y lettering to it.
Did they have a bus? Do you know if they did a bus?
Oh, do you not want to know what happened on that bus, man?
Some White Lotus season 3 style drama. He's posting Instagram stories at Fleetwood Mac songs with him in Alexandria.
I have no idea what you're referencing, because I've only seen the first season of that show. I've heard things about the third season. But okay, sure, I can follow that.
There was a bunch of someone spilled tea, basically just that there was a lot of tea to be spilled. Usually actors don't say this, but one of the actors who's British was like, oh, there was plenty of drama rife with internecine sexual just a very messy off set situation there. But one of the actors, Walton Goggins, and his love
Oh.
interest on the show, or his mate on the show, and I say mate because she's British as well. They, I think something happened there because he's posting Instagram stories with her, and also they unfollowed each other
I
on
heard about this.
Instagram. Yeah, so
Yeah.
something's going on there.
Ooh, and
and
that
I
same
just
thing happened between Bernie and AOC, you're saying?
that's what I hope. Yeah.
They hooked up finally. Yeah. Gross. I just imagined it. Actually, sidetrack. We're going on a tangent here. I read this thing about the creator, Mike White of White Lotus. Apparently he went on Andrew Sullivan's podcast and said a bunch of transphobic shit.
Oh, I didn't know it was Andrew Sullivan's. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Andrew Sullivan, the like gay conservative guy,
Race
who,
science enthusiast. Yeah.
yeah, he's into like the bell curve and shit. I read a post that someone did about it, taking him down, but I think they are wrong about some stuff, or wrote it really fast or something, because they said he's into bell jar theory. Well, that's Sylvia Plath. That's not Charles Murray. But clearly they were
He
trying
thinks that women can do literature, they can be good writers, but they have to kill themselves, is what his thesis is.
the only way they could achieve those high highs is to get into a suicidal mindset. That actually kind of that's true of everyone, I think. You just you gotta go crazy if you want to get the real juice. But yeah, so he also like he based like he based the two girls in the first season on Red Scare somewhat. Apparently he told Sydney Sweeney to listen to the show to try to
Forgot she was even in that show. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I could see yes, I can see it now.
That's because she's playing like a teenager and
Yeah.
is still sexualized, but it's not like full evolution Sydney Sweeney where we're like, wow, look at her boobs like we are now. Like when she's on SNL now, and it's just like, hell yeah. And then the right wing tries to make that a thing. Anyways, so the bus though, here's the thing. I've been on a tour bus. I rode a tour bus with Eve 6, and it's very possible that they were on a bus, because that's how you go on a tour like that. And I'm guessing the back of the bus sometimes has an actual little tiny, like an RV-esque like bedroom. That's Bernie sleeps in there. AOC, I bet she had to sleep in a fucking bunk. And AOC, if you're listening, and I know you are, you put your feet to the front of the bus, because if the bus gets in a car accident and your head is that way, you could get into a serious, it's like a thing they tell you when you ride on buses.
Oh, damn.
Because someone did it once and some band all got like life-ending concussions or whatever the fuck.
Oof.
Can't remember who it is. This is a thing people in the roadie business all know. Like, oh man, you don't want to go out like Salt and Peppa's fucking backing drummer back in the day, or whoever the fuck it was. But anyway,
it's not Left Eye died, is it?
No,
Doesn't matter.
She died in a very crazy way, right? I don't remember either, but I remember.
I think it's a normal car, and I believe there's a video of it. Anyway.
For some reason I thought she got lit on fire. I'm having a Mandela effect thing happen in my head. Did she burn down someone's house? I don't know. So they did this tour. It started off on the East Coast. They had a cool, great controversial moment on the East Coast where Laura Jane Grace of Against Me was one of the opening bands and played this really clever song. It's about how she's trans, and it's about how the evangelical far right, the fucking family Christian people, are very anti-trans and are very against using pronouns. And she sort of cleverly points out this thing I hadn't really thought about as a comedian. I was like, hasn't everyone ever done this? Seems like low-hanging fruit almost. But she wrote a song about how if you're a Christian, you call God by he, him pronouns. And so the song goes like, does your God have a big fat dick? Is he fucking me or something?
Because he's fucking me right now, right?
Yeah, because it feels like he's fucking me. That's what it is.
Yeah.
His balls are filled with lightning and so on, whatever. Classic Laura Jane Grace lyrics. Got stuck in my head. It's a real good one. Who I'm a big fan of, although is complicated because has said interesting things on both sides of, I don't know. She was like an anarchist. Now she's kind of not. Weird Twitter arguments a couple years ago about labor and stuff. But anyway, neither here nor there. I'm still a big fan. but it makes sense that she would be in the world of Bernie Sanders openers, right? And so that I guess it went across the country and it ended here. And it's been really interesting because all the people that they get to open for Bernie are like, I mean, it's a generational thing and it's also a cool thing. And there's other stuff going on, but it is like specifically the music I listen to. It's real odd. It's been making me feel ways. I've been trying to figure out what's going on.
Are you a big fan of Soccer Mommy?
I like Soccer Mommy. I like all that shit. Lucy Dacus and fucking Japanese breakfast and that type of music. I like a lot of other type of music, but it's very interesting to me that like they kind of hit like really specific stuff that I think doesn't quite like, it's not like everyone he's trying to reach necessarily has that. They're doing influencer shit and they're trying to get people like me, I think. I'm a big Against Me fan, so like that's very interesting to me too. And one of the people that they had open for him the other day here in LA was Jeff Rosenstock, who is a person I've been listening to since no one knew the fuck he was when he was in a band called Bomb the Music Industry, and is now someone who I woke up one day and everyone was like, I love Jeff Rosenstock, and that's great. And I'm just being petty and being like, why does everyone like my thing? But like, I am kind of genuinely like, why the fuck does Bernie Sanders know who Bomb the Music Industry is? This is really weird to me. Neil Young and Joan Baez, and it was the biggest rally they've ever done, the biggest Bernie rally that has ever happened. Like, and this is including when he was running for president and stuff. So something is going on with these rallies. I missed it, by the way, because my boss wanted to go, so I had to work, which is very funny to me. And I don't really care because it's not 2019 and a Bernie rally doesn't mean the same thing to me as it did in the past.
Yeah.
I missed a lot of those because I was not going through, I was not having a good time mentally during a lot of that shit. And so now it's just a thing in my life where Bernie Sanders is often very close to me, and then I'm like, I can't go. But it would have been a very short drive to get to this shit. And I missed it, but I saw coverage of it and I heard about it. And I've been out to stuff and lately, like just since Trump got elected, and there's a general flavor of things going on right now that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to get your opinion on. I want to just check in about. I feel like it's something we as leftists or whatever should be talking about, or maybe there's something to touch on here. Because like, okay, let's start here. The left, like Twitter world, the professional posters of the world at this point are very over. They fucking hate AOC, which sure. I often kind of will point out that like, does this all apply to Bernie too? And you know, I'll give them their credit here. It seems like they kind of went, yeah, fuck both of these people. And it kind of seems like if you've gone far enough in a specific leftward direction, your opinion on this is that it like, who gives a shit, right? And it's like, you know, they're sheepdogging people into the Democratic Party and whatnot. And I think it's true to an extent, and I think it's certainly true that you should like keep that in mind, and you definitely should not have that in mind when engaging with these people at all, because they definitely. It should be noted that they suck on Gaza. They have these weird framing devices they use. Bernie kind of makes it all about Netanyahu. We also saw what AOC did at the fucking DNC. And they absolutely will roll over and endorse the fucking Democrat when a presidential election comes around. We've seen it over and over at this point. So it would be naive to expect these people to not have these limitations, and what you do from there, what conclusion you draw from there, that's up to you. And I'm like, if you want to go off and be like, it proves all this shit about their, you know, they're bought and sold by inside out evil George Soros or what, I don't know, fucking whatever. Great. I don't know. We talk about politics a lot on the show. I kind of have a more nuanced view of this. I I don't really like to just reduce it all to, all or nothing. And I guess the way I feel about it is like, from having gone to a lot of other stuff, like a lot of anti-ICE protests and stuff like that. The only people out in the streets right now en masse are liberals, or at least it's not the only people, but like, it's when a mass amount of people comes out, the mass comes from liberal Americans, right? There's just a lot more of them than there are leftists. And I don't really see that as like a reason to not go to things or to observe or to engage or to try to do something with that collective effort. I thought about this a lot when I was at anti-ICE protests, because people tend to go like, we make fun of people's like corny signs and stuff, all the I wish I was back at brunch right now type shit, and pussy hats. And I mean, I saw a fucking woman dressed up as the Handmaid's Tale in the year 2025. I laughed, it's like, what the fuck? Like, you get out of a time machine from like 8 years ago. But a lot of the people at the anti-ICE protests were Mexican, and we're like doing stuff like waving an American flag and a Mexican flag at the same time. And that, I think, if you see with your own two eyes as an internet addicted leftist, it makes it a lot harder to go like, liberal, like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. What you see there is the reality of people start off as liberal when they're engaged in anything. And, the thing to do seems to be to kind of move from there and like try to evolve or whatever. And that's how I feel the potential of the people that showed up to this Bernie rally. I guess I'm not that cynical. I think if you have all these criticisms of Bernie and AOC, you should go to the rally and then like fucking talk about that and stuff, and maybe engage if it's possible to engage with Bernie and AOC in that way. Try to curb this shit, because maybe the lack of accountability is maybe what keeps them lame. I don't know. So I see it as like an interesting nexus point and not a complete like, they're a bunch of fuck them, and also not like, but certainly not a thing where I would go fucking dick ride Bernie Sanders and AOC and talk about how they're like the political revolution or whatever. The vibes from the fucking last couple presidential elections are out the window. Also, he went to Coachella after this. Well, I'll give you a chance to talk, and then we'll talk about that later. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, there just are more liberals in this country than leftists, and like that's just a general fact we have to face. And there's a lot of different schools of thought about, do you have a popular front or go about it in a different way. But there is, I think, a pretty big contrast to this in 8 years ago, where there were also a lot of liberals out in the streets, and there were solid issues behind a lot of what they were demonstrating on behalf of. But a big theme was like Russiagate. And you look at like the leadership of people who would speak at these rallies, like the political figures. I mean, this is more of an anecdote, but it just really sticks out in my mind. I just remember Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi speaking at this massive demonstration or rally. This is probably 2018 or 19. And she was wearing like hippie regalia, almost like an outfit that would look more in place in like 1968. But that was a big galvanizing call. And I think now things are a lot more real. It's not as much of a shock that it's Trump. We've been here, we've done that, but these policies people are really dealing with immediately. And you have that. And then also the leadership from the sort of traditional center left leadership from the Democratic Party is lost. They don't know what to do. So I think it is a positive thing that we have like the two foremost socialists in America who are if it's going to be politicians leading these having rallies as like giving voice to any kind of opposition to Trump. I would I would prefer it to Hakeem Jeffries or someone like that, or Schumer. Like there's that viral clip of them attempting to do a rally, and it was just so pathetic. But
Right, like
my
when people
main
like that try to do a rally, you don't get a crowd of 36,000 people.
yeah,
There's something unique happening here. Which is like,
right, and it is worth pointing out too that the crowds they're getting are bigger than Bernie would get in his presidential campaign. So it's a lot of, and if you like, some of the reporting is saying that a lot of the people who show up were not Bernie supporters, are not socialists. They're libs, and this is like the only call to action they have. And I ultimately, that's my critique of these rallies, is that yes, it's good to get people in a place together and demonstrate, get people talking, but they're not really directing people to do anything. They're not getting
yeah,
people to, for instance, join DSA, which Bernie is not a member of, ironically, from him being kind of an ultra from back in the day, or at least, I mean, obviously it was a very different organization, so I don't blame him for not wanting to join Michael Harrington's DSA in like 1983, but he didn't like the realignment strategy of DSA being trying to very explicitly change the Democratic Party from within. Um, I mean, that's simplification we've talked about on the show before. But um, they're not really. Yeah, there's nothing to really do after the rally. Is my main gripe, I guess. And obviously, yeah, the left has kind of been demoralized for a while, and I think what the two of them, their trajectories have a lot to do with that. And yeah, they've done things that are betrayals. Obviously the DNC speech, um, but a lot of it just has to do with losing too. Like we lost in 2020 with Bernie, and it, in a two-party system, losing has consequences. I mean, there's not like a huge difference to me. Well, I mean, I like Rashida Tlaib's position. She didn't endorse Biden. I think that's the right call.
mhm.
Um,
Also
but
just proves that that's possible.
right,
Gets rid of the plausible deniability of someone like AOC or Bernie
right,
going, I had to.
yeah, she didn't have to. That's true. But it's also like you're in a losing position either way. Like your person isn't on the top of the ticket. So, but yeah, yeah. I guess that's my main take, is that like it's good that the rallies are happening. It's good that they're doing them. Wish they would mention Gaza more, but it doesn't seem like it's leading to any kind of organizational growth or development, when there are things that are happening that they could sort of try and help filter people into.
Yeah, it's weird because I mean, wasn't there. I only caught some clips of what they were talking about. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be a point, and it's just kind of because there can't be one, or at least the right one from where they're standing. It's weird to me that, I mean, it's not weird. It's just an interesting thing to ponder about this, is that the everything has shifted, and now liberals are at this shit. People who would have like argued with us for going to this type of thing,
Yeah.
like an election cycle or two ago, now they're at it, and we're like to the left of them, and they're like, hey, do you want to go to the Bernie rally with me? And we're like, fuck off,
Right. Well,
And
it's interesting because this is exactly what we wanted to happen in 2017, 2018. And it did happen in sort of smaller ways. But overall, liberals were a lot more skeptical of the left after that. There's obviously there's a strong case to be made for Hillary Clinton losing for not being left enough. But a lot of people didn't buy that. Now, though, I think they just don't see anybody fighting, and then the only people they see are Bernie and AOC, because they're having these rallies, and so you have people who we wanted to kind of filter in the left, who seem like ready for something new, but the left right now is pretty demoralized and scattered. That's not to say there isn't some attempts being made, and there's growth in organizations like DSA since November, but it's just funny, the contrast between now and 2017, because it's a lot of the same dynamics, but like it's just having had this happen before, and it leading to Trump yet again. It's just demoralization, and I think that's a big obstacle. And especially when it comes to getting people to do stuff after the rally.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, where history, I think, would tell us is this is going to end, is doing stuff after the rally, because this only seems, the fact that there are like liberals that are like in a space now where they're like no longer threatened by this social democratic sort of thing that has emerged over the last 10 years in AOC and Bernie, because it, you know, with them doing politics in the way they do, it isn't really a threat to them until it's a presidential election where there's a fucking person that either one of them are running against that then now they're the enemy or whatever.
Yeah.
Because we're like, that's gone. We're not really in that until, I don't know, whatever the fuck happens the next presidential election with AOC possibly, and then maybe they try to run somebody to her right, and then that becomes a thing. I don't know, who fucking knows. But like, they're it's just kind of odd to see your somewhat enemy in the people that are fucking lib brained with politics. What I mean, like specifically, that being a former and current enemy of ours now liking the guy who used to be the person that we were behind on some level. It's just odd. It's like one of those memes of like the two guys from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia seeing each other from across the hall type thing. I think that's what I'm referencing. Or there's two people in cars passing each other going, what the fuck? I think it's an Ellen Page thing, or whoops, Elliot Page thing. But like that's part of this, and that's certainly, you should be like making fun of the libs for that, and the pussy hat back to brunch people and butter emails people and shit. Sure. But like, I guess I've just been thinking a lot, especially since going to these ICE protests and going to a lot of like other like just organizing things here, and just thinking about like people that aren't that are still involved in politics, either in the sense that they're to the left and aren't internet addled white people. Like there's a lot of fucking like Latinos that are just like involved in cool organizing shit out here that just they're not from the same world as a lot of people who probably listen to podcasts. Sorry, audience. You know, that they're like, what, they've never heard of all this shit because they've been organizing because of actual reality and stuff. And then you have a lot of people who are not political. This is what I'm really thinking about, is that there's a lot of people who are like untapped, or whatever the fuck you want to call them. That always strikes me as a gross term, but it's like unactivated or whatever. Like potential, they're in a moment of potentiality. And that's where I'm like, don't undercut yourself by not going to this thing or trying to do a thing, or just like, I don't know, just your opinion being like that it's bad, because I think you might not be seeing like people that from the great just gray non-voter America that is the like half of the fucking country potentially being involved. And I guess what I'm saying is like, this rally's much bigger than something like a fucking Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries or whatever could do, right? Part of that is because Bernie and AOC have been like representative being like these outsiders politically. But another part of that is just that, well, I guess it is kind of because they're sort of seen as outsiders by people, is that the people that are showing up in that big of a number are the fucking fringe, like are the outside of the world of politics. That's where you're getting into the world of real actual people, and you're going like you're getting like this like those people aren't all fans of Bernie Sanders. They're just not fans of the status quo, the system necessarily. And that's what's good about Bernie Sanders. That's also what worked for Trump. That's just what outsider and populist shit is. And that is a thing to like to be thinking about and not to be ignored, because that's a classic leftist mistake, is like, no, me and my 5 friends are going to do You know what I mean? The revolution. And we're always sitting around trying to go, how the fuck do we get this thing to happen? The nature of the thing, revolution or whatever the fuck you want to call it, involves a lot of people, right?
Yeah. I mean, and there's also something to be said too about there's from the average lib, I guess, there's a level of authenticity to Bernie Sanders in just by the fact that he's probably not going to run for president again. So he's not trying to get your vote.
No,
And
he's trying to get you to come to his Coachella set,
Yeah.
which happened afterwards. Coachella is a big, annoying music festival that a lot of people who have a lot more money than me went to. And it's somebody said the other day, I thought it was very funny. It was like the weekend of Coachella in LA is the best weekend to try to find a serious partner on a dating app, because everyone who went to Coachella, you know, a certain type of person went to this music festival that's outside of town. So they're not gonna be on your thing or whatever. But it's like this huge destination music festival type thing. It's like a short drive from LA, and all the celebrities and shit go to it. Stuff happened, like apparently Charlie XCX wore a sash at the after party after her show that said like should have been the headliner, because she's mad that she wasn't the headliner of her stage that day. The headliner was Green Day, which is interesting.
Whoa, I didn't realize this.
Yeah, and it turned into a politicized in a really stupid, terminally online way, where people are now really mad. You should not care about this. This shit doesn't matter. But the reason people were able
to just in a raw numbers sense, she should headline, like the amount of people she's going to pull, I would think is way more than Green Day, but
you would think so. But then this is California, you know, Southern California.
Okay.
Green Day is kind of huge forever. I usually fucking like, I don't know. The American Idiot era Green Day is so lame to me that I kind of, that's all I think about when I think about them. But the two things, right? One, people have brought up that they apparently are all bisexual or something. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, because I don't know the exact. People have been arguing online today trying to figure out they're queer of some kind, and it's like no one knows exactly who is what. But they have some old music that is like way ahead of its time, like the song King for a Day, which is like very gender queer and stuff. And it was on Nimrod, really good album, underrated, came out after Dookie but before Warning, which is where some people say they fell off. But they've been saying pro-Palestine stuff, and not hardcore, just something here or there. And so people have been that's been a reason to yell at someone on the internet, is like, hey, fuck you, Green Day's pro-Palestine, which is good they are. It doesn't really matter who headlines Coachella anyway, because Bernie Sanders actually headlined Coachella. He came out and he talked at a thing, which I'm sure was really crazy to be at and really interesting. This is all very bizarre to me because it feels like the past. It's just weird. He's not running for president anymore. But he had a long day. They drove to LA and then fucking drove to Coachella, and he did this big spectacle for Randy Blanco and Juja Shashusha and Susha and everyone in Zendusha could all watch him. And I hope they had a great weekend at Coachella. I don't know.
Yeah. And that is a thing I know they do in the UK. It looks like this one festival, Glastonbury, they'll have politicians speak at that. So maybe it's starting to trickle over here. But to have a politician who's like not running for anything, contrast that with, for instance, like if Cory Booker were to do a tour like this, it would just be like, oh, he's running. This is just a totally cynical thing. There's no like bigger call to action than just his which his speech ultimately got a lot of press, but like, what did that really do? What points did he make? He talked for 25 hours, didn't mention Gaza. And
only weird people that are like too far into just having cable news hypnosis brain tried to make that into a thing.
Yeah.
But this is the difference between actual populism and just weird, you know, people that are into politics who are not actually that many people.
Right. Because they are at a minimum actually inviting people to come to the rally, which is better than nothing. It's better than just watching from a computer screen. I do still wish they would, for instance, and maybe they did. I don't know if this is 100% true, but it would be it would be cool if they had organizers, local tenant organizers, or whatever mutual aid groups get up and say, like, here's how you can plug in. We're in this city.
There was
instance.
a DSA tent. It didn't look very big.
Well, that's something. I mean, yeah, DSA I know has tried to organize it. A few of these. I know there was one DSA chapter which handed out like multi-paragraph pamphlets that were like, this is why they're actually kind of bad. Which, yeah, obviously I have critiques of them. I don't know if that's the most constructive time and place to do that, but
one of my friends, my friend Blake Midget, has been on the show, is in
Uh-huh.
a very famous like emo screamo band called Page 99, and he was just on tour in Europe, and he posted a very long typed out thing that someone had posted all over a music venue that was like do not call it emo unless it comes from the DC specific post-hardcore scene. And it goes on and on and on like that. And, you know, this pop punk wave from the aughts, My Chemical Romance is that pop punk band. It is not, and don't give me Sunny Day Real Estate, Rites of Spring, and only that, and Cap and Jazz. And then, like, it's all this shit that someone who's really into that heard it. So that you should do that. Bring that energy to the Bernie AOC thing. Post specifically what social democracy is and why it only comes from the. Well, I guess it doesn't come from the DC. Well, yeah, it comes from the DC area.
It comes from the DC. It comes out of anyway. Yeah, but I mean, I do want to just add this coda because I can already see the comments brewing. I'm not an AOC simp anymore. I think she betrayed us with the DNC speech. She's not endorsed by DSA nationally. So I'm not saying AOC is the and this is an important point too. I mentioned Bernie's not looking for votes. I also don't think AOC is either necessarily. Like I think she probably wants to be president one day. I don't think she's going to run in 2028, and if she did run, I don't think she would do very well. And part of that is just for racism and sexism, but also like she has alienated her base. She has alienated the former Bernie supporters just by despite all of the bad things he's done, overall, the arc of his career has been to agitate the leadership in the House and then the Senate, or at least like have diplomatic relations with them, but oppose them on meaningful issues and be like a contrarian, basically. And AOC has not done that. It seemed like at first, but that is not the path she has taken. And I think that alienates people like us. And if you want another Bernie campaign, you need that to win. Maybe she'll run and try to just appeal to a broader coalition, but I think you kind of need that hardcore. And and yeah, I just don't know that she frankly has the juice as like a public figure, to be honest.
Let me give you my opinion on that real quick, and then we'll move on. And also, I hate AOC. Also, for anyone listening, I hate all of them. I hate politicians. I voted for my cat. Please stop yelling at me that I love AOC. Right, but I think that we forget that we're in a bubble. I know no one likes to admit they're everyone's always arguing about is the left in a bubble, is the right in a bubble. I think everyone's in a bubble. The world is nonstop bubbles. There's bubbles all the way down, right? And so this populism thing that I'm talking about, it's kind of like Kyle Gordon, okay? The guy who made the Planet of the Base video last year, 2 years ago, however fucking long.
Oh wow, was that 2 years? Yeah, Jesus.
I think it was. Fuck. Oh man, Jesus Christ, it's old. The women are my favorite guy. He was like someone we knew, right? He was around alt comedy in New York, and then he made that video, and it was like sometimes one of your friends, like someone we know, they're just all over the place for a week online, and you're like, wow, holy shit, you really blew up. You were on the cover of whatever. You got to go on late night about your thing or whatever, right? So he got like a music. They got a record label. What do you call it? A fucking contract. He got to make a record out of that.
Mhm.
And I remember thinking about this and thinking like, this is really funny. But like, the funny thing about virality is it like almost never turns into anything, especially if you just don't have like you don't actually have the juice. Like you can't just keep creating that. And it was like this guy's thing is he makes like these kind of genre spoofs, and you know, it didn't seem like his other ones hit as hard as Planet of the Bass. Planet of the Bass just for whatever reason, it just hit. You know, he hit the jackpot. Everything worked. And so I assumed that he fell off and that he kind of had a career where, you know, most comics, when they have something like that happen, it's like, you check in on them a few years later. They got representation, they got a job maybe out of it, and then you know, kind of never hear from them again, right? Well, someone I know here in LA thought it'd be funny or entertaining, legitimately, to go see Kyle Gordon because he's coming to town, right? And we tried to go. I was like, oh shit, yeah, I bet I could get tickets or you know whatever. It's fucking sold out.
Yeah.
He's sold out a huge venue.
Yeah. Is
Chris
TikTok.
Fleming isn't sold out the show that he's doing. Like it's crazy, right? So we were talking about this. And we're like, who the fuck is in the audience at these things? No one I know has mentioned this guy in 2 years. And the answer is normal people, right? So what I'm getting at here with regards to like AOC and Bernie and like this whole idea of populism is like, I think actually if I mean, there isn't that many of these people to choose from, so it has to be, I guess, AOC. If she ran, I think in our heads, we're like, she's betrayed her base. I think the reason that she operates the way she does is because it does not matter that she betrayed her base, which is people in DSA and shit like that.
Yeah.
She's aiming for the big one, right? The big mass of people, which is people. And I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying that definitely pays off. Because I don't know. Like, I think that like everyone who's just super into politics, it's weird. People often say like, you know, she's sold out to this or that like demographic. I think she's sold out to like political entities for sure. But demographic wise, nobody who's into politics likes her. She's got a career because she's good at like, you know, getting elected in her fucking like area. But like,
well, I would disagree slightly in that though the oppositional sort of tack that has broad mass appeal beyond that's the reason for that Bernie resonated with people who like voted for Trump because he was like going against the establishment. And maybe you are right in that she still has that, like people just don't see it the same way we do because they're not following it as closely or don't have the same politics, frankly, and maybe they do still see her as an oppositional figure. But I think overall, that's not her image is just kind of like as the millennial Democratic Party, which I don't know. I could be, but I do hear what you're saying. Like, there's people are siloed into their different social media platforms, and I remember when Planet of the Bass happened. Something I found really annoying is he as a bit would drop all these other videos of the same song with other girls. Like it was part of his like a meta bit about like that genre of music or something. And then you had all these people on Twitter, which is the app I spend most of my time on, being like, Mass Comms BA here. This is a lesson in viral marketing and how people fall off. Meanwhile, he's getting millions of views on TikTok with all kinds of different videos. It's just like that's the one that happened to go viral on Twitter. And I think it is the most popular one. But like, yeah, what is on your feed is not reality. But I do think, I don't know. I would love to be wrong, or I would, it would be nice to be wrong, I guess. But I think AOC has maybe a ceiling right now. She has, you know, she's young and she can run for Senate and develop her career more. But I think there are other options if we do run a presidential candidate, someone from like a union background, like Sarah Nelson, who's going to be like a clear anti-establishment choice. And that will resonate. But then again, it's this tension between the Democratic base, which is not historically very anti-establishment or hasn't been, versus the rest of the population, who you need to win a general election, but to win a primary, you need the simps, the people who like Nancy Pelosi and stuff. Right now, though, they are starting to have a little discontent. There is some rumblings in the jug. But it's kind of an open question to see how deep that is, because I live in Hakeem Jeffries' district. He's the congressional minority leader. He is terrible, but up until like a few months ago, there was no notion that anybody could successfully challenge him. It is possible that there's enough pissed off libs who are just sick of the Democrats who they've been voting for loyally.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this is why I wanted to ask you about it, because I think you probably have a better, like, understanding of politics than me in general. And that you made some good points. You're probably right. I guess she's just weird because she's a social democrat, which in America, because of the path that Bernie paved, is really outside of everything.
Yeah.
But then she isn't like the person. She isn't like Bernie. She isn't likable in the sense that it's authentic. She's a fucking inauthentic politician, and that is kind of something that it becomes very obvious about her. So she probably wouldn't be able to harness that outsider kind of thing in like a presidential election unless she tried to, which doesn't seem like it's in her fucking nature.
Yeah, I think she's more interested in the Senate seat, or possibly, I've seen this floated, running for governor against Hochul, which I think might be even better. But I don't think she's going to run in 2028, and who knows what the future holds after that.
Okay. Well, what about the other side?
The MAGA party, yes, the Republicans. It's been fun. Yeah, we're talking about parallels between now and 2017 and what's changed. And one thing, obviously, is the Republican Party, which was a lot more skeptical of Trump back then. At least elected office holders, the Senate and the House, they stopped him from doing a lot of crazy stuff because there were more moderates, and now it's been totally magnified. But there's been one shakeup, and that is the Senate Majority Leader is now John Thune of South Dakota, who is, I read a New York.
Related to Nick Thune?
He might be. I wonder. I always wondered that, actually. When I first heard of Nick Thune, that was my first thought. I'm not even kidding. Because I remember when John Thune first got elected, 2004. I guess my Lee family birthright was in South Dakota for a family reunion at the farm my grandma grew up on. And there were Thune signs all over the place. John Thune. And I barely saw any for Tom Daschle, who was then the Senate either minority or majority leader in the Bush era. And Thune knocked him out. And he's a really good-looking guy. I saw him on TV, which is relevant here, which I'll explain in a second. But there's a really great piece from The New Yorker called "The Invisible Man" about John Thune, and it describes his political trajectory and his looks come into it so much. It's funny how that happens. There's this congressman in South Dakota who would I don't want to say groom, but would recruit young men who were likes in their communities. And John Thune was a star basketball player and an athlete in general. And in a small town in South Dakota, like Irene, where my grandfather grew up. I'm only bringing that up in the off chance that there's some listener who lives in Irene, South Dakota, because that would blow everyone in my family's minds. But he was an athlete, and this congressman, Frank Abnor, would just drive around and go to sporting events, because that's all that's going on in these small towns in a lot of cases. And he would just watch and see who the good athletes were. And because if you're a good athlete, that means you're popular in your town. And if you're a handsome guy, double the fun, even better. So he basically just gave this guy a job after he saw him at a basketball game, and he was part of this team of quote unquote little Abnors who helps
What
Frank Abnor,
the fuck?
and it's his last name. I don't know what kind of ethnicity it comes from, but he was a congressman who was defeated eventually by Tim Johnson in South Dakota, and basically filled in the blanks of John Thune, gave him his politics because his parents were Democrats, and then he's like, "Well, I got a job being a Republican, and so I'm just a Republican now," which is like how so many politicians. There's like no like ideological like come to.
Sorry, mom and dad. I joined an army of twinks after I met a cool guy who lets me hang out in his jacuzzi.
It's really weird. I mean, it's funny because so John McCain used to say that I would have gotten elected if I had looked like John Thune, which is kind of a funny thing to say. But there's a quote in the article from Lindsey Graham who adds to that quote and says, "I bet Cindy McCain would have liked a lot too. If John McCain looked like John Thune, I bet she'd enjoy that."
God, man. That guy, everything he says just got that stink on it.
Yeah. But the reason essentially that Trump is tolerating John Thune, who is now the Senate Majority Leader, of course, and was kind of a rhino. The MAGA people would call him a rhino. Obviously, very terrible retrograde politics on every issue under the sun. But he didn't like Trumpism, was a skeptic of, said in 2016 he should drop out after the Access Hollywood tape, was like, this guy's bad news, and then held up legislation after Trump got elected, did cut deals here and there, but overall he didn't like him. There's a great passage in this article where Trump is talking about Greenland and giving a press conference with the Republican senators flanking him. And John Thune is one of them. Trump is saying there is a love fest in Greenland over his plans to annex Greenland, just saying everybody in Greenland loves it. And he says like 7 or 8 things that are just totally made up in the press conference. And John Thune is just like straightening his collar, looking off to the side, like checking his watch and playing with it. Just like clearly extremely uncomfortable. But that's what a lot of these guys have had to do who are like normal people. And John Thune, the secret to his success is his looks, but also his Midwesternness, because he doesn't want to offend everybody. So he tries to get along with everybody. So even though Trump is doing all this stuff that he's like horrified by and supposedly like almost he had like a moment where he was unsure of what to do, may have left politics, but he's like, no, I need to stay and be like the backstop to Trump in case there's another January 6th, because that would be, the Senate ostensibly would have some say over if America can become a fascist dictatorship or not. But that is a say that is increasingly seeming futile. He has said, John Thune was like, well, Doge has to go through the Senate. We have to prove this stuff. And then Elon Musk was just like, no, we don't. Fuck you. And then he's just been politely like, okay, but constitutionally we should. So he has this like high-minded view of himself as like this backstop, but in practice he's not actually standing up in any meaningful way. And the only reason he's there, it is the Senate Majority Leader. This is stated in the article, is that he's hot. Because Trump likes hot guys. He wants hot guys to be in, positions of power. He's attractiveness determinist, I guess. So
what the fuck? That's so funny. That is kind of a MAGA thing, though. He wants everyone to look like Max Headroom and shit. Mm. Everyone has to look like a Fox News fucking pundit, like a completely just polished, weird plastic surgery human being.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Well, that kind of leads into what I wanted to talk about today. I'll try and get through this as efficiently as possible as we round the show out here. But yeah, sorry, it's a politics episode, and I want to reiterate, we hate all these people. So just don't get mad at us because we're talking about politics, which is a real thing that happens. Or at least I'm speaking for myself here. I hate all these people. I heard Andrews loves the hot guy he was just talking about.
I loved. I do. I have all my critiques of Bernie, AOC, etc. Donald J. Trump, I am a huge fan of. I voted for him 3 times because we have the same middle initial.
I voted for my cat. My cat, you don't know this, his real name is Donald J. Trump. So technicality, I voted for Trump. Bernie, he's hot. What can I say? He stood in front of a bunch of Misfits logos at Coachella. It was very funny. I felt like I was 33 again. Okay, so I want to talk about this, right? Something that's been going on online lately that's increasingly weird is the White House Twitter account has been popping off, and like all of them have been going crazy. Trump, broke reality. He made the world this now. Unthinkably, the president tweets insane stuff like, "Oh my God, I vote for Donald Trump." God, I was reading
God, I will vote. You got it in my head again. Kyle Gordon should do a parody of that.
Fucking, that is Kyle Gordon. I think he probably hired him. Like, I was just reading a bunch of crazy shit. Like he posted a video of like an ICE deportation with the song "Closing Time" by Semisonic a while back, and because the line goes, "You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here." And I looked it up, and it's been taken down because Semisonic got pissed off about it because they are not Trump fans. They're cool alternative rock guys apparently, and they didn't go down the fucking path that a lot of those people do. And I guess they successfully bullied the fucking White House Twitter account into or that's whatever account it was, it might have been Trump, into deleting it. So that's interesting. I think they probably talked to whoever actually owns the intellectual property, like their label or something like that. But anyways, he tweets crazy shit all the time. And but there's a little outlier here. Lesser known, more slept on, insane MAGA Twitter account is just the White House one. And the White House has done some really weird shit lately. It tweeted the first day of the Studio Ghibli AI slop shit. It tweeted a picture of like a Ghibli-fied a ICE arrest, like a real woman that got deported, and there's like a Ghibli ICE officer putting handcuffs on her and shit. Real fucked up, right? They did that shit on purpose because they knew how mad it would make people, and it, for whatever reason, somehow plays into the strategy that they have online now. Just, I don't know, just get over it, just ignore it. It sucks, but there's nothing we can do about it, in my opinion. They also tweeted a picture of Trump during the tariff thing. It just said, "Let him cook," which is really funny to me. They also said, just all caps, "Do not resist and you will be rewarded," which I think was about the tariffs, but it just sounded like RoboCop shit to me.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
"Do not resist, you will be rewarded." Somebody had a really funny quote tweeted that where they said they were when they give their dog a bath. But anyway, so "let him cook" thing though, I was talking about it on Twitter, and I was like, man, you know what? I bet that this is run by an internet addled, elder millennial, I think is how I put it. And so then people started tweeting at me, and it went kind of viral for some reason. I don't know, maybe because it was funny or something. I don't know. I'm not gonna pat my own back here. Somebody retweeted it, somebody liked it. Fuck you. So eventually enough people got into the discourse about it, and people started to propose that "let him cook," that's not actually elder millennial lingo, that's Zoomer lingo, right? And they're right, but the reason I said that I think it's an elder millennial is because internet addicted elder millennials love to talk like Zoomers online.
Yeah.
we do it all the time. I'm 38. Like, it's a dumb, ironic thing, or sometimes people are just genuinely trying to feel younger. It's lame, but it's like a second degree usage of that shit. And to me, saying it about something like that really, that was the vibe. And this is a joke I'm making, so I don't really care to like defend this point I'm making, but this is just where I was coming from mentally, right? I was like, this smells like a guy my age who got a job running the White House Twitter account, and he thinks it's really funny to say "let him cook," and it's like, shut up, dude. Anyways, so I was thinking about that, and then I sort of started to argue with somebody, and then I was like, you know what? Who the fuck is running this Twitter account? I want to try and figure it out, because I thought you could Google that sort of thing and it would tell you whose job that was. And it's just a thing I hadn't really thought about that much. Like, who actually does it? Is it Trump? Is it his press secretary? Is it a JD Vance job? I don't fucking know, you know? Everyone's making jokes like, oh, it's Barron or whatever, right? Ha ha, funny. But the more I looked into it, the more I like could not actually find out anything that tells you who runs the White House Twitter account, because I think it's never tweeted crazy shit like this before, so no one's ever thought to ask, right? Or it's being deliberately sort of like not told to us, which kind of also smells like what's happening because of what I'm about to tell you. So I didn't find an answer. I still don't know. I didn't spend that much time on it, so maybe I'm entirely wrong. Feel free to tell me if there's a fucking definite answer to this and I just get it wrong. But either way, I found an interesting person who it might be. And that led me to what I want to talk about today. So this guy's name is, and he has the worst name. I keep fucking it up every time I try to say it. So say it with me. Ori Rinat is the person who is the director for ODS, or was the director for ODS, the Office of Digital Strategy under Trump's first administration. ODS.
Ori Rinat.
Ori Rinat. It's
Oryranat.
It's so unintuitive. It's like, I also have a hard time with it because R's are like my weak.
It sounds like a Cockney thing, like the stray couple words in a Cockney sentence. Ori Rinat.
Ori Rinat. Yeah. Ori outside Rinat. I have a hard time saying like the word brewery. Like that's my speech impediment, I guess.
Brewery.
I have one. And so this name, Ori Rinat, I've been calling him Rory all day. I have to keep Googling his name when I'm reading about it. It's like, what the fuck? What is his first name again? Ori Rinat. So
I'm saying it like a millennial.
You just said it like RFK, which I'm sure he has to say all the time.
That's it. Yeah. I've got a great idea for Ori.
RFK kind of has like ancient vocal fry, like if a mummy had vocal fry. So like the Crypt Keeper or something. So when you look up like who the fuck runs the White House Twitter account, there's no answer. The only like articles that are written about someone getting that job are from the Biden administration last time around. And but when you look up, so somebody said somebody proposed that it was Ori Rinat. If you look up Ori Rinat, the Wikipedia page for ODS is the first thing that comes up, which I think is interesting and kind of suspect. But it's also because he's mentioned in it because he worked ODS during Trump the first time around. So let's take us a little adventure, tell the story of this guy and how it gets back to where I think it might be him and what that means. So he was Trump's ODS and yeah. So he is old, by the way. This is the other reason I stuck on this. He is 38 years old. He's my age, and that's why I think I caught something here. He talks like me at my worst. Let him cook, right? So he runs this thing called Urban Legend, which is a fucking Black Mirror ass tech dystopian startup that connects, quote unquote, like campaigns or clients, I'm doing finger quotes, with influencers to like make these little contract deals where you as an influencer just start talking about how much you enjoy such and such product or political campaign or whatever, and no one really knows that you got paid basically to say like, I really like this new type of food I've been giving Murray. It comes from a can of sludge I got from the jungle by Upton Sinclair. So he urban legend, right? That's his main thing. It came out in 2020, but let's back up a little bit, right? So who is Ori Rinet? When he was 10 in Queens, where he grew up, he like bound a bunch of catalogs together, and then he hired his classmates. He like collected a bunch of like those old catalogs that people would like order stuff from, and then like got a bunch of his classmates to sell them to their parents. And this is like I think the story that he tells in his like how I became an entrepreneur, self-help type bullshit, is like, even when I was a kid, I came up with this idea to help connect people with and he like basically is describing I made a bunch of my 5th grade class into influencers by just helping facilitate sales to their parents or whatever. Barf, right? Ick. So I say as a 38-year-old, he graduated. That's right.
Do Zoomers still say cringe?
I don't know. I think that's kind of that one's stuck. I don't know if they have a new way of saying that. I would know if anyone say it at me. Graduated from Columbia in 2009, and to give you like a little timestamp here, he after that worked at the Atlantic's mother company, which is called Atlantic Media, which also runs a couple other like magazines around this time. So you got to understand, around this time, print magazines are sort of transitioning to being like these internet magazines, but they're, now we think of them in kind of different ways, right? So he works for the Atlantic, and when he's working there, they're talking about this. This is during the time, if you remember back then, there was a lot of like pivot to video ? Are we gonna do that? Is that how you make money? Because like the internet just kind of destroyed the way ads in print worked. So he was part of like some team that tried to figure out how to deal with the plummeting ad return thing. And in the process of addressing this question, he studied a lot, and he did these like things where he sort of got to almost to the influencer idea, but he noticed there were problems with it, where if you had like clients that then paid for you to do these like kind of weird online campaigns that didn't feel quite like a print ad or an ad, and were like creative in certain ways, he said that for whatever reason they had problems of what he called authenticity and what he called accountability, and these are like tech speak. So when he says on authenticity, he means like how much people just believe that it's real. If you're an ad, fucking Don Draper ass motherfucker, that's what authenticity means. And accountability means like how much like just how effective it is, like how much the client gets their return back or whatever. So like he said, sometimes there were like these really bad campaigns where like somebody would dump a bunch of money into trying to get like emails sent to a politician, and they spent like one fucking thing spent $30,000, and they only got fucking 500 emails or something. I can't remember what he said. It broke down to like a lot of money per email. They're like, holy shit, we just spent way too much money. So he's dealing with these problems. And a lot of this stuff is like the clients are like, some of it's like products, right? But a lot of it's political, and a lot of it's just trying to get like this or that thing passed or astroturfed or whatever. And most of it's right wing, obviously, but there's some that's like kind of just like what do you call it? Like NGO type shit. We'll get to that in a minute. Anyways, he then, if you were talking about this person in the here and now, and he, as he often does, argues that he's not political, here's a gotcha moment. Here's something that should make this very obvious what his interests are, is that in 2015, Murray, sit on my lap, you're gonna get up here. He went to work for the Heritage Foundation. So apolitical, okay, my ass, right? Fucking fuck you.
Yeah.
He worked for the Heritage Foundation, and then 2015, right around this time, Trump starts running for president, and he helped with the Trump campaign, and sort of took some of this knowledge that he had been accruing to the Trump campaign, and I think he worked for the campaign. He might have come out after, right? Okay, because there's like someone who actually did the main thing during the campaign. Well, either way, when Trump won, he took a job with Trump, and he basically failed upwards because Trump's original ODS guy, who was supposed to get the job, failed a background check. like there were still rules in place, I guess, about shit like that.
How bad did he have to fuck up to get failed to work for Donald Trump?
Yeah, it's really funny. This is literally like the first week Trump is president, because as president-elect, he had a bunch of appointments that if you remember, like very few of them stuck. Like his cabinet got flipped over a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, that's another big change between Trump 1 and Trump 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we're only a couple months in, but last time it was like, in the first week, I remember people getting axed.
I remember writing about his election, and I went and looked up everyone who he hired, and then like I read an old thing I wrote back then, and all the names are like, who the fuck is that? Because they literally, like, when he was president-elect, they didn't even make it to the cabinet because I don't know why. Like all of I don't know, the 100% of the time the reason was a background check. But for this dude, it was a fucking background check. He couldn't pass it, so he didn't get the job, which is crazy because like they background check me when I work in places. But anyways, this guy his name Brad Parscale. So Brad is this guy from
Yeah, I remember him. Sorry, he was his first campaign. He did social media for it, or he used Facebook in a way. 60 Minutes did a thing on it. It helped Trump win.
Yeah, he was like his digital campaign manager, whatever the fuck the specific name of that is. He wasn't the overarching campaign manager. He was the online guy, which in retrospect, fucking pretty big deal, right?
Right. He was going on Facebook and was like looking up areas where they had like a bridge collapse, and then would put targeted ads about investing in infrastructure, which Trump didn't end up doing. But that, for all the noise made about Russian bots, like that was the effective thing that the Clinton campaign was just not doing.
Yeah, exactly. He like, for whatever reason, this guy understood Facebook specifically. And yeah, I mean, when Russiagate is so weird because it reduced arguing about like Trump's campaign and politics in general to just like whether you're allowed to do certain things. And like, I just remember a lot of time arguing about Russiagate with people back in the day and being like, you're allowed to do that. Like, you're just describing political campaigning. Like the problem, I guess, is if the idea that potentially theoretically someone did it from Russia, but like, A, the United States does it all the time. B, there's no precedent here that you can't go on Facebook and try to get somebody to vote for somebody. And that's what he did because he was just a young nerd. And he said he used Facebook to win the election. He pioneered a lot of like how that social media manipulation type shit now works. It's interesting, campaigns, presidential campaigns being every 4 years. Cause like, I mean, I remember Obama like didn't have a smartphone. He had a BlackBerry, and then he had a smartphone. And then like another election later where it's like everyone's just grappling with what social media kind of is. And it just keeps evolving, right? So this is just a moment when there was, in retrospect, this very obvious thing to take advantage of. And he I think he worked with Cambridge Analytica. Like a lot of the post like 2016 explanation of what happened that got rolled up into, just reductive conspiracy theory about Russia. It got reduced a certain way. And one of those things is Cambridge Analytica. That's like a thing that a lot of people know about. It's a big like frontline documentary type thing that it's real, but I think a lot of people also kind of reduced it to just that. Like they're just one evil company. And it's like, no, you think bigger. It's not, that's an evil company, but like if you chop it down, another one grows back because like the thing, like the system here is going to produce evil, right? And he says he didn't work with Cambridge Analytica because like they weren't as good as him or something. Like he also does this shit. Brad Parscale. And also because I think he's trying to make a name for himself. So he's like, no, fuck that, it was me, right? But whatever. Yeah. He probably worked with them and it's all bad.
Right.
his thing within the Trump campaign was called Project Alamo because he's from San Antonio and he went to the same college as me for a year,
Nice.
UTSA.
What's the
And
team for there? The Alamo guys?
the
The-
Alamo guys.
But
No,
is it like soldiers who fought for the Alamo?
I don't remember. I don't think so. I think it's a bird of some kind, but I was never a sports person at school. I was barely a school person. I had a great time at UTSA. All I did is play poker and go to class. And I remember I sat one time I was in the middle of a game of poker and I got up to go take a government final and then I got an A on it and I came back to the table.
That's
an
the
hour later.
zone.
Yeah. Anyways, he looks insane. Let's stop here and Google him. He has a giant, like weird Louis C.K. head where he has a pointy red beard at the bottom and then like red hair at the top that like sticks up. So he looks like a fire demon or something. It's real strange. He looks like he looks like when you make a cartoon out of like a lit match and the top is just like a weird point.
Oh, damn.
This is an angry, weird, red-haired guy from San Antonio. And so he was a Trump guy, right? But then like happened to a lot of people in the first Trump presidency, he had a big falling out with Trump at one point, and he lasted pretty long. It was around J6. He made it all the way through the first Trump presidency, but there's leaked texts between him and someone else on January 6th where he basically like has a moment of clarity and realizes like someone died because of like what he did. He literally says that like a woman is dead and I think it might be because of what I did. And they're like, yeah, it's gonna happen, right? But he also
I believe he had a crash out too, and because the first time he got fired for a little bit, and then he like had a domestic. There was a recording of the police coming and him like there. It was like an episode of Cops. He had his shirt off and was arguing with his wife and got arrested for something. I assume he did something bad.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was about to get into.
Oh, okay,
that's
sorry.
No, he did an episode of Reno 911, basically. Like it's very clearly a crash out. He had a gun. He was drunk. His wife called the police. Later on, she said, "Oh no, I didn't." Right? Everyone's met those people, right? I think she ended up leaving him or something. He has kids. He briefly left politics after that, after his standoff with the police. And he, I guess, couldn't find, work anywhere else or couldn't rise back up to the level he was at. So he's reemerged like so many people who try to swear off Trump. Like you were talking about earlier, that guy that's just sort of reluctantly around him.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a poll where it's just like, where else are you going to go? He won. And you see a lot of people, try to get away from him when there's a brief moment of possibility. And then when Trump won again, it's like a cycle. They all fall back in line. So he's reemerged as this like weird AI guy. And he's now helping Trump with this startup he created called Campaign Nucleus. They all have insane names. And he basically just uses it to continue all of the shit that he had figured out in the first campaign. And he basically is implementing AI to use campaign tools that are already things. I think he kind of was just in the like he's had a right place, right time kind of thing happen the first time around. Now he's like kind of rebuilding his career and just going, all right, I guess I'm a campaign tech guy, because he like dropped out of UTSA and like finished at another college and stuff. He's just like some weirdo. He kind of came from nowhere. He's like a weird character that like came all the way, had a huge come up with Trump, and now he's got to just figure out how to keep that going for his career,
Yeah.
So one of the things Campaign Nucleus does is like amplify anti-woke content because that is advantageous to them. Clearly it's something they've figured out, that like reaction, that rhetoric is reactionary and it fucking solidifies their base, right? For anyone listening who might be into stuff like that, just point that out. So Campaign Nucleus also works with like at this point, so I think they used it for the most recent Trump campaign, and now it's also branched off in other stuff. So he works with, like, for instance, this guy named Tim Dunn, who lives in Midland, Texas, is like a huge fucking evangelist. And Tim Dunn is an interesting quote about having to settle. Like, he's talking to somebody about Trump and how he's maybe not the most holy president, but he says, like, well, Jesus Christ himself isn't on the ticket, so we're gonna have to settle. So that's, if you've ever wondered, like, how the fuck do those people rationalize that? That's pretty succinct rationalization, I think. And big surprise here, Campaign Nucleus also works abroad with India and Israel in what he calls, quote, their war against Hamas. So, but you saw that coming. Anyways, back to Ori Rinat. So Rinat, he worked on the most recent Trump campaign. No, sorry, he worked on the 2016 one, and the 2021. That's right. Okay, I forgot. Trump was run for president 3 fucking times. He worked in the 2021, the one that he lost, and in the process built the new White House website. This is also why people think he runs a Twitter account. He built an opioid crisis portal, and he also built the coronavirus.gov website, which is like around the time that was happening, you know, because that happened under Trump. And him and this woman named Sandra Clark, who's the administration's director of marketing and campaigns, put together 2019 White House Social Media Summit, which was like kind of a new thing at the time. And that summit featured like Charlie Kirk from Turning Point USA, Veritas people, Bill Mitchell, who was like a QAnon guy at the time, usual suspects, dumbass, chud people. And it's funny because like Trump spoke at it, and one of the things he said is like, the crap you people think of is unbelievable. Is unbelievable. The crap you people think up, it's unbelievable. Anyways, in 2020, Clark and Rinat, I guess after the loss, they left the White House and they started Urban Legend. So Urban Legend is this thing based out of Alexandria, Virginia, I think. It's a startup just in this weird loft.
There. Sorry.
In Alexandria?
Yep. That's
nice.
Side.
Was it in the loft?
It was no, unless it was converted since then, but
was it an influencer? Did they hire her to influence you?
I shouldn't say more, and I'm already regretting saying that. I just have a verbal. It just doesn't come up very much. Alexandria.
Wow.
Unless I'm in the DC area. Anyway.
All right. I will push you no further. So it's basically a startup that connects, quote unquote, like clients to quote unquote influencers, right? They're developing it into a Tinder style app for the influencers to just like fish through like potential campaigns to connect with and be, brand partners or whatever the fuck for. And it was used so it's for a lot of stuff, right? It's just how do you take advantage of influencers? How do you use influencers as advertisers, basically? So it can be for politics, it can also be for products and stuff like that. Apparently it was used in 2020. Also, there's like other flavors of this. There's other startups that are like this, but this one is just like the big conservative one, I guess. It was used in 2020, and it apparently got Cory Booker in trouble because it kind of read as like payola, right? And Bloomberg sort of got in trouble for it because when Bloomberg got into the race, there were just tons of he like just spammed this. He dumped like all of what is a lot of money to us and not a lot of money to him into like probably an app like this and just hit every single button. So if you remember around that time when he was trying to win, there were just like tons and tons of like people that were just suddenly like, vote for Bloomberg. I make graffiti or whatever. The guy who made, my friend Rory, who made the logo for our show, said he got an email from Bloomberg.
Oh, no way.
Asking him to fucking make shit for him, whose fucking handle at the time was Piss Castle. So like they didn't give a fuck, right? And it wasn't that big of a black eye on the Bloomberg campaign because that was his strategy,
Just pulverize everyone with money.
But someone like Cory Booker is trying to fake that authenticity, and it was like a problem for him. So But yeah, let's talk about this payola aspect to it. So the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, requires ads to say that they're ads. You know, that's a thing like on TV you kind of see and in print. But there really isn't legislation yet for this, like just social media type shit in general, and especially influencers, because influencers are just people. So it's like kind of this weird thing that no one's legally figured out. Like, if I pay someone to say, like, wow, I really enjoyed using Happy Murray kitty litter. Oh, the clumps are so good. Like, how do I legally require them to be like, this ad is by people from Murray? You know what I mean? Because social media is you just post. So that potentially could happen at some point, but Trump like won, so probably not, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, there's like so they kind of have skirted this by saying like Rinnat says like that's not my influencer's responsibility, that is the FTC's responsibility, so I'm not going to tell them to go, you know, like tell everyone that they did a thing. I think he's like, sort of like asking for forgiveness, not for permission, kind of thing.
Okay.
And what's also weird about this is that would be really interesting and difficult to do, because the way that urban legend operates is that like it's secret. Like no one knows. They say they have like a stable of like 700 something influencers who they've sort of corralled into this system, and they don't have to disclose who that is at this point. And they also don't have to disclose who their clients are or how much anyone's getting paid. The only reason like people know about some of these clients and influencers is because they've just been able to figure it out, or there's a few of them that that just said like, yeah, well, I do that, because some of these people don't even realize what they're doing. Like, because part of the strategy at Urban Legend, I guess, is to just like find people that are just really in really niche subcultures, like, you know, gardening or something, or like they said, like one of their big ones is a doula, and that's like a big new demographic that or a big like subculture that they've figured out is growing, is like family planning type shit.
Well, good thing they'd never be able to corrupt Miss Rachel.
And also like crypto influencers, but that's obvious, right?
Right.
So they, or I guess crypto customers is like the demographic. So but a lot of people are just like, I've always been really into skiing, and then this company approached me and asked me if I wanted to partner with this thing. And it's what they do is they find like someone who already agrees with the thing and happens to be part of some subculture, so they never see it as a conflict of moral interest. And you know, a lot of these issues, people that aren't, I don't know, super like political or nuanced about it, see as good, and they see themselves as like doing the world good by, like, for example, promoting I don't know, like something that can get twisted around I don't know, like NGO type logic or whatever, like I don't know, I'm losing myself here, but like, you know, convince somebody to be like, hey, I want to help, you know, access to healthcare, right? Because I care about that, and I think it's important that people be able to get a certain type of surgery or whatever. Because, but not realizing that like access, quote unquote, means you're promoting privatized healthcare, right?
Yeah.
So you just find someone who's into a subculture who you think has a story to tell about healthcare, tell them, oh, you can do the world good by, you know, promoting this thing, which is exactly what just happened to Reggie Watts, by the way. He just did an ad for like a fucking Amazon a client that's like a healthcare thing, and he thinks he did good, and he thinks it was fine, and he's been talking about it online and stuff, because they found a way to find a fucking famous influencer and convince them that it's not, you know, against us in certain ways or whatever. So that's basically what's going on here. They just have a bunch of people, but they're not all hyper political weirdos. It's not a fucking farm of Russian, you know, evil hackers. It's taking people that already exist and then presenting this as a way for them to make some extra cash and do good in the world. And so they don't even realize they're being hired by like Turning Point USA and shit to like maybe say something fucked up. So obviously, if you do the digging and you like think about stuff the way we try to here, right? It's obvious that a lot of the stuff is like right-wing astroturfing, and a lot of it is just like what they've been able to uncover is really obvious, just anti-woke, anti-mask, anti-vaccine.
Sure.
Wired did a big piece about this in like 2022, so it was right in the wake of a lot of politicization of the pandemic. So a lot of the stuff they were able to uncover was just like all caps, the liberals wanted you to wear a mask, fuck that type shit. They have all these different people, right? One of them is an ex-contestant on The Bachelorette who filmed a video without a shirt on that says, quote, "The border's a wreck. I'm getting Amber Alerts every day. This is ridiculous." God. So that person was paid by someone to say that. That's how he chose to do it. He's probably dumb. I already believe that shit to begin with. There was a guy named Eric Bolling who used Urban Legend.
Oh, yeah. From Fox News.
Yeah, he was a disgraced former Fox News host. And he's one of the 51 people Trump followed on Twitter. So this literally like could have influenced Trump, right? Although I bet Trump uses the For You page or the what your friends are. Well, you know how you can't really follow who you're following.
Yeah, I should use For You more often.
I don't know if that was a thing back then. I can't remember when that happened. Anyways, so he hired someone to share his post involving a quote unquote telecoms issue with the goal to quote apply as much pressure as possible on the FCC because he was pissed off at the FCC. And
wouldn't let them be.
He said there were, quote, thousands of engagements overnight from Bolling's tweet. The person said, which the, quote, FCC Commissioner Ajit Pai at the time said the president followed and saw this. I don't know. So anyways, Wired and Huffington Post both kind of have reported on this, and I think through both of their reporting, somebody figured out that like a bunch of anti-mask mandate stuff in 2021 was coming through a link that was, this is really interesting. So Wired talks about this. Like Urban Legend uses Bitly, which is the thing that shortens hyperlinks. And Urban Legend denies like kind of being involved in a lot of this like far right conspiracy theory, anti-vax sort of stuff. And so, oh, no, that's not our clients. And Wired figured out that if you run a Bitly, if you use Bitly to like basically encrypt a link, you can still kind of tell stuff about it. And one of the links that they found that just really lines up with a bunch of money being paid by some like PAC to Urban Legend, and then this thing coming out, this like anti-vax campaign coming out through influencers, like it uses this thing called like the suffix is .to, and I can't remember, it's like .to.exe or something like that. It's a really weird way for a hyperlink to look. TO is Tonga. So this fucking link was being run through the Tonga, like the country of Tonga. And they were able, because that's just such a specific place to like use a VPN style thing to throw a thing. They were able to figure out that this is like definitely is it's Urban Legend. They just, I don't know. This is tech shit that I can't articulate that I just read about, but like they did some nerd shit and figured out no one's ever used a Bitly that goes through Tonga except for this one thing. So they were able to search the entire internet for it and basically called bullshit on Urban Legend saying that they don't do this stuff. And it's pretty obvious. But Urban Legend denies being political, but in the way that a right-wing thing denies being political. Does they say like, oh, we have like Republicans and Democrats here, right? Which is like, okay, if you have one Republican, fuck you, you're a Republican, right? And Democrats, what's the difference, as we've discussed a lot of the time? And also you're just giving yourself plausible deniability and yada yada yada. But they also say they just have like, I mean, they're just there to make money. So they also have people that are just trying to sell shit will approach them and use Urban Legends. So I think that they make a lot of money off of the right wing and then just sort of skirt the issue like this. Um, some of the left, quote unquote, like liberal stuff they say are clients of theirs is like interesting. This guy named Walter Masterson. Have you ever heard of him?
Is he he's like the comedian who does kind of the Jordan Klepper stuff, where like he interviews conservatives and Trump people, or like tries to prank them?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. He's
yeah,
I
I've
didn't
seen
know who he
him.
was, but he's a comedian. So if you knew who he was, that makes sense. Apparently, he has used urban legend. This like independent little like blogger person called Broke Ass Stewart uses it, which I used to work for like briefly. Like I did some freelancing for
Oh,
them, but I didn't know anyone. I haven't heard that name in years. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm sure the guy who started it has money, and so he was, he's like a lib guy who I can't remember what his cause was. But some of these things are like, hey, we were, I want to use influencers to try to fucking help the EPA or something like that, or like,
mm.
save Planned Parenthood or some shit. Um, and whatever. So they use those to go, look, we're not conservative. Um, by the time the last election rolled around, the 2024 one, Biden tried to use some of this stuff, and then Kamala. And it's kind of funny, like it's kind of interesting because I think that they saw all of this, they saw how they lost, and after an election, you can kind of look at stuff and in hindsight's 2020, right? So they were able to see like, oh, the Trump administration is using like all these like influencers and stuff, and they're using the internet in ways that, I mean, one way of looking at this is just that like this is just how things are going to be. Like there's no controlling it, so you should get better at it, right? And there's a lot of people who make the argument like, hey, liberals, Democrats, you should learn to do this shit. And you kind of saw this in the Harris campaign where like they had Tim Walz like fucking streaming video games and shit because they just went like, oh fuck, like this is what beat us, so I guess we should try to do it.
Did they
And
consider like just doing mowing people down on Grand Theft Auto to see what that did?
that would be cool. And then there's no healthcare in the game, and they're like, pretty cool, right?
See, this is why we need, yeah.
They did stuff like, I mean, I remember reading about how like the Harris campaign paid a fuck ton of money to like put her ads on the Sphere in Las Vegas. And like the guy who owns the Sphere in Las Vegas, the big glowing like fucking orb thing, is a Trumper. Like they just paid a bunch of money to a Trump guy, and also that shit didn't influence anyone, right?
Mm.
And I guess what I'm getting at here as I conclude is this raises some interesting questions, just the idea of influencers in general, because the way they operate is kind of that you don't know someone's being paid to say a thing. So it, it, I think that like there's interesting like logic to this kind of circular where like most of us think this shit doesn't work on us, right? But you only know that an ad doesn't work on you. Advertising in general, right? You go, that shit doesn't work on me. But you don't realize when it does. When it does
Right,
work, the
right.
way it works is by convincing you that it wasn't an ad.
Mm.
And this is like especially like that. The whole thing at play here is quote unquote authenticity in the tech advertising sense, the way that Ori Rinat says. Like the goal is for people to believe that when an influencer is saying a thing that it's real. So like I think I have a sharp eye for this stuff, like in terms of politics, but I bet advertising works on me all the time with regards to shit that I don't really think about or care about, when I'm
Mm-hmm.
like trying to decide what I want to eat. I don't really care about the differences. So I just give in to feelings. And sometimes that is just, damn, I don't know how they did it, but they got that Mountain Dew Baja Blast in my head and I got to have one, right? And I don't fucking discern because it's like, who cares? You're making a decision about what to consume. And so I think that for a lot of people, politics, they take about as seriously as which fast food chain to eat that day. And that's how a lot of this stuff works. So that's something that I think is going to be more and more ever present. And we should probably think about, because it's just like a new terrain for fucking advertising, and it's secret, and it's even harder to understand that it is advertising than like a fucking commercial or a billboard or something. But also, like, I was thinking about this and I was like, what's funny about this is like the Democrats, they will watch something like this happen that works for conservatives, for the right, and then they'll go like, we should do it too. And then they try to do it too, and it doesn't work for them. And I kind of think that's because dirty shit that works for the right wing doesn't necessarily also work for liberals or the left. And like this is where I kind of come up against this whole like we need a leftist Joe Rogan thing, or like when liberals think that they're the left and they say like we got to do stuff like they do. I don't think that like tricking people works, and that's why as the actual left, we're always like, whenever the Democrats lose a fucking election, we're like, hey, how about you fucking run on answering people's needs, right? And it's just the thing that they'll like never do, these obvious things like, why don't, hey, everyone's fucking dying, why don't you address like the privatized healthcare industry? And I go, no, we're gonna try hiring a guy who can bench press a horse and then have him say, I really like Kamala. And it's like, well, that kind of seems like it works for Trump and not for you. And that's got some interesting implications,
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's it's this is like a lot of the economy now is gimmicks like this. It's funny how politicians are. I mean, this reminds me of something I saw just before we started recording, which Andrew Cuomo, apparently his housing proposal was written by Chat GPT.
Yeah.
And it straight up has like grammar mistakes in it that don't make any like there's
He might be using campaign nucleus because that's one of the things it does is write like campaign, like it AI your whole
probably
campaign and write speeches and shit like that.
probably one of the sentence is this is a politically convenient posture but to be in victory if landlords, small landlords in particular, are simply unable to maintain their buildings. It's like just very like they could have had somebody just proofread it, and that's how shitty they are.
All your base belong to us.
Even though it's like the campaign's got so much money, but it's a kind of a groupthink thing. It's like, well, this is what everybody's doing, so we should do it, and we're gonna make it's gonna work just because we're spending money on it inside tech.
Yeah, I mean, there are also massive systemic reasons that, like the Democrats won't, no matter how obvious it is, they won't actually serve people's needs because to function, they are a bourgeois political party that they serve the people who own all the shit that we're trying to dismantle and democratize and nationalize and stuff. So they just like will never do that, which led to this outcome of having this weird like Bernie AOC thing where they're like, is this going to work? Are they actually on our side? Are they just controlled opposition? Whatever. But like the fact that this, like, even just all of this fake shit, just advertising madman shit, seems to work 10 times better for like outwardly, deliberately, like openly right-wing shit. Kind of says something, I think. Like, I think when it does work for the Democrats, that's bad because that means that they just are kind of engaged in the same kind of right-wing like shit. And then it's bad when it doesn't work because it means they lose and they're less worse than the Republicans, But like, there's a reason that so much of this Ori Rindat guy's like work seems to be amplifying like reactionary anti-woke bullshit, because that's libidinal. That's the thing that has made every weird angry young guy and a lot of women too and a lot of other people like a lot of people really re-engage with the world that they live in. It just became this fucking point of activation for people where they suddenly feel like they have a meaning in the world, and like fusing that with right-wing interests has proven to be like dynamite for getting their shit done, which is evil and bad and false consciousness or whatever. And Yeah, I don't think it works the other way around. I don't think you can do it. The you can't make a gimmick out of the truth, is what I'm saying. And if you're on the actual left and you want actual good things to happen, progress forward, you can't cheat. And all this stuff is fucking really elaborate cheat codes for stuff. You can't trick people into wanting what's best for all of us by using a bunch of influencers and shit, I guess.
Yeah.
Case in point, like, it doesn't work. Okay. That's my soapbox. I'm done. Do we got anything to plug?
I actually kind of do. On this, I mean, we've mentioned him, I guess, 3 times kind of randomly throughout this episode, but Cory Booker is the subject of our latest episode of The Vanquished, which you can find on the audio feed wherever you get podcasts. We dig in deep into his bullshit, and also our YouTube channel. We got one with about Pat Robertson dropping on YouTube Monday afternoon. So check that out. At VanquishPod on social media, and I'm at Anders Lee here.
I'm at Feral Jokes, if you don't know that. I've never plugged my ad. I'm gonna start doing that like you. Maybe I'll get back up since so many people have left Twitter. I'll get back up to 40 something instead of 40. I don't know if I have any shows coming up, but hey, you know what you can do for me if you like me is listen to our fucking Patreon episodes. I just did a really good one on Peter Kropotkin and the conquest of bread and all that stuff. Anarcho-communism, the thing I'm into. Yeah, that's how we make the show. So please consider throwing us some money on Patreon, listening to our Patreon episodes, watching us on YouTube, watching our bonus episodes on YouTube and stuff like that. And yeah, help us out so we can keep making the show and so we don't have to do fucking ads, because I get approached by shit like this all the time that's like, I don't care that the thing that people like you for is anti-us. It will still help us sell fucking dog food and weird home security systems and shit and BetterHelp. And I literally am one of the people that something like Urban Legend would like send an email to and be like, you want to sign up for our weird Tinder for dark money thing? And I've seen the movie Urban Legend. I know that a guy with a hook hand kills a lot of people, so I'd say no. Sign up for our Patreon instead. Patreon.com/PodDamnAmerica. Okay. I'll do it like RFK this week. It's finished.
It's finished.